Thank you, Chairman Lobiando and Ranking Member Larson. This is for all the witnesses. Congress previously imposed a moratorium to prevent the FAA from issuing more robust regulations on the operational safety of commercial spaceflight until 2023. And the rationale was essentially to avoid over-regulating an emerging industry in its infancy. Do you think that this moratorium needs to be revisited, and should it end earlier or be extended? Based on what's actually happening in the industry today, what do you all think about updating the operational safety rules currently in place?
I think it's important to make the system that we're in right now permanent. I want to address a point that Ranking Member DeFazio brought up, which I think elucidates this. AST regulates the safety of uninvolved public property, national airspace. So these activities, these launches, are very heavily regulated. We've chosen not to regulate the safety of the passenger because it is frankly an experience. It's not common carriage. We're not taking a person from one place to another. As an experience, I believe it is not in the public's interest to have the safety of the participant regulated. Furthermore, it's not in the public's interest to regulate the safety of a test pilot, developing new technologies. These are risks we want our industry to take. And so what happened with Virgin Galactic is tragic, but it is the kind of thing that happens as we develop new technologies. And it is not in any way the fault of AST or Dr. Neild's leadership that happened. Dr. Neild was regulating to the letter of the law, and I believe has no fault, and we should not be, Monday morning quarterbacking both looking at the report from after the accident or the work that was done at AST. I believe they have done a great job, and we should maintain this regulatory regime because it is building a great industry, and giving it more stability is appropriate. When it goes to common carriage, selling a ticket from one point to another, New York to Sydney, then I believe we are, and appropriately in coherence with the regulations, in a place where we should regulate the safety of the passenger, but only then.
And if I could just chime in as well, Congressman, to echo Tabor's sentiments, no new frontier has ever been settled without loss of life. It's unfortunate, it's tragic, it's happened before, and I'm afraid it will happen again. Again, what Dr. Neild and AST did was not driven by their desire to promote the industry or that aspect. It was the legislative authority that they were given. This is a decision that Congress has made, the administration has made, and unless that changes, there's nothing more that Dr. Neild can or should do in that arena. And I believe that we have struck a good balance in this area. The ComStack has set up the standards working group, and I would welcome our vice chair to say more about what we in industry are doing here. But what remains undone, and what I'd like to say in response to a previous question about are we behind foreign countries, you've heard many of us talk about this Article 6 concern of authorization and continuing supervision. Other countries have already dealt with that issue and dealt with it well. I just recently spoke to some colleagues and friends from United Arab Emirates who are busy setting up a regime that does recommend and support safety, but creates an environment that is conducive to innovation, to growth. And if the United States can't even deal with this simple fundamental issue of addressing an existing international obligation, well, then where are we as an industry? So rather than looking at the moratorium, which I think we can have a discussion about, this is a near-term question that has to be dealt with alacrity. And then I think we can continue to investigate moratorium and look at what the ComStack and Commercial Spaceflight Federation and industry as a whole are doing relative to developing industry standards.
As you know, the moratorium was recently extended, but as the U.S. is operating under that moratorium, one of the things that's supposed to happen during the course of that is the collection of operational data and experiences, which would in fact feed into the development of regulations when that time is appropriate and Congress makes that pronouncement. However, from what we can learn, there's been not a lot of coming together presenting operational information from the various companies for competitive reasons or other kinds of reasons. So as the moratorium goes forward, it's going to be important that the most safety-related operational information is available to FAA so that it can, in fact, have a basis for regulation when that time comes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Mr. Hanna.